On we are here. Just think of the time, ladies and gentlemen. Just think of the time. You don't have to think about it. It is right here. It is right now. And I wasn't sure what we were going to do today, so we find ourselves back in the wisdom of the ages, 60 days to enlightenment from Dr. Wayne W. Dyer. And we're going to do a double dose of Dyer-age today because we're going to read the chapter entitled Mind Power. My mind to me a kingdom is. A poem comes to us from Sir Edward Dyer. From 1543 to 1607 he lived, the English poet of the Elizabethan period. Elizabethan? Elizabethan? Thank you for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. Sir Edward Dyer is best known for his lyric beginning, My mind to me a kingdom is. And this is a very specific topic that we love to focus on here on this channel because our mind is the ultimate tool. It's the ultimate natural power that we have. And so to learn about our minds, to learn how to use our minds, to me is a great thing. Because, once again, we're about to find out that the potency of the mind has long been a special favorite, and it is underestimated, I think. Now, without me rambling, thank you so much for joining me. We're reading this for purposes of teaching and commentary, entertainment, expanding the mind so that through an increased awareness, we can hopefully increase the quality of our lives and the lives of those around us. Now, from Dr. Wayne Dyer and Sir Edward Dyer, like I said, with a double dose of Dyer today, let us dive in to Sir Edward Dyer's poem, My Mind to Me a Kingdom Is, in the section entitled Mind Power. It begins, ladies and gentlemen, by saying, My mind to me a kingdom is. Such present joys therein I find, that it excels all other bliss. That world affords or grows by kind, though much I want, which most would have, yet still my mind forbids to crave. No princely pomp, no wealthy store, no force to win the victory, no wily wit to salve a sore, no shape to feed a loving eye. To none of these I yield, as thrall, for which my mind doth serve for all. I see how plenty suffers oft, and hasty climbers soon do fall. I see that those which are aloft, mishap doth threaten most of all. They get with toil, they keep with fear, such cares my mind could never bear. Content I live, this is my stay, I seek no more than may suffice, I press to bear no haughty sway. Look, what I lack, my mind supplies. Lo, thus I triumph like a king, content with what my mind doth bring. Some have too much, yet still do crave. I little have, and seek no more. They are but poor, though much they have, and I am rich with little store. They poor, I rich, they beg, I give. They lack, I leave, they pine, I live. I laugh not at another's loss, I grudge not at another's gain. No worldly waves my mind can toss, my state at one doth still remain. I fear no foe, I fawn no friend, I loathe not life nor dread my end. Some weigh their pleasure by their lust, their wisdom by their rage of will. Their treasure is their only trust, a cloaked craft, their store of skill. But all the pleasure that I find is to maintain a quiet mind. My wealth is health and perfect ease, my conscience clear, my choice defense. I neither seek by bribes to please, nor by deceit to breed offense. Thus do I live, and thus will I die. Would all I did so as well as I. Sir Edward Dyer. In the poem, my mind to me a kingdom is. And the theme there that no matter what is going on, it is the mind that can triumph above all that we experience. There was quite a few spots there that stood out to me. The treasure. But all the pleasure I can find is to maintain a quiet mind. No worldly waves my mind can toss. My state at one shall remain. So he's like, I'm not laughing, laugh not at another's loss, and I'm not envious or grudging at other people's gains and success, because this would be to cancel out a state of oneness. My state at one with reality, at one with yourself, being at peace, a quiet mind. Very, very fascinating, ladies and gentlemen. And then the other part there, that hasty climbers soon do fall. I see that those which are aloft, so those that find themselves in high positions, might mishap doth threaten most of all, might feel the anxiety and the stress and the fear that comes from being in such lofty positions. They get with toil, they keep with fear. Such cares, Sir Edward Dyer says, my mind could never bear. Because all of this, as we know too well, can bring such a great weight to bear for our minds. Dr. Wayne Dyer now begins here by saying, Sir Edward Dyer, a 16th century courtier and poet, was extremely popular in his time. Yet only a small number of his poems have survived. This poem is his best known surviving contribution, a treasure that Dr. Dyer offers to us from half a millennium ago. This poem on the potency of the mind has long been a special favorite of Dr. Wayne Dyer's. He says, I find its rhythm sweet, and it's easy to read, and it seems to speak directly to me, he says. I can assure you that my love for this particular poem is not based on the fact that Dr. Dyer shares the same name with the poet. I have received hundreds of copies of this poem from people all over the world asking if I am related to Edward Dyer. Though the theme of my book seems to match perfectly with the title, My Mind to Me a Kingdom Is, Dr. Wayne Dyer being one of the leading authorities in his time on the power of our minds and the ability to change our lives in the positive way by understanding and using the power of our minds. I do not believe, Dr. Dyer continues, Sir Edward Dyer and I are biologically related. Nevertheless, every time I read this poem, I sit back and wonder and attempt to contemplate this kingdom, our minds. The poet describes the comfort of detaching from everything, including our body, and being in the kingdom of a quiet mind. I mean, it sounds nice, ladies and gentlemen, doesn't it? The kingdom of a quiet mind. But this is something that we really have to get to the place in our lives at certain points, whatever time. And, you really have to want this. You don't just get a quiet mind like magically from reality. Like, oh, now you're here. Here you go. You are now gifted. Your ability to access a quiet mind. This is something that we have to put in some effort and work in order to create an ability within ourselves to access this kingdom within our minds, this palace of peace and tranquility. But this is something that must be cultivated through practice. And what kind of practice? Well, like, what can we do to do that? Well, for me, it is contemplating philosophy, spiritual philosophy, psychology, mysticism, metaphysics. There's many avenues that you can go, and I believe if you are on this journey personally, then you will find that you are drawn or called or led, supposedly, to those things that which you will need. But that doesn't mean that you can just sit there and do nothing and believe that it will show up for you. You have to have the intention and the will and then put in the effort to try to seek to discover that which you need. But remember, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, as the old aphorism goes. With that being said, this poet describes the comfort of detaching from everything, including our body, and being in the kingdom of a quiet mind. Dr. Wayne Dyer now asks, have you ever contemplated what an awesome part of you, your mind, truly is, ladies and gentlemen? I mean, spend some time. If you never have before, I mean, I'm sure you have if you're here. So thank you for being here. I love and appreciate each and every one of you that spends time with me and all the wonderful authors and poets, mystics, philosophers, and sages of the ages, in this case, the wisdom of the ages, and Sir Edward Dyer. But what an amazing tool, ability, part of us, our mind truly is. We can't see it or touch it. It has no substance, no boundaries, no placement in time or space. Yet we seem to think of it as that from our perspective. But I mean, if you really think about it, no placement in time or space, we can go anywhere with our minds, and yet it is always with us, guiding and directing virtually everything about our lives. This is our kingdom. And us, you and me, ladies and gentlemen, and only you, can use it in any and all circumstances to create whatever reality that you want to create for yourselves. Remember, so often we think reality is just happening to us and there's nothing we can do about it. I would say that's a very victim position to place yourself in, and you have, very limited power from that perspective. So we need to change our thoughts and change our life. How can we begin to change our perspective on this? Well, can't see it, can't touch it, has no substance, out of place in time, yet it is always with us, guiding and directing. This is our kingdom, and you and only you and me and us, ladies and gentlemen, can use it in any and all circumstances to create a dynasty of delight, if we want, for ourselves. The mind represents our corner of freedom in life, the place that cannot be invaded by others. Instantly, I can hear somebody saying, what are you talking about? How can others not invade your thoughts and your mind, especially when they're walking in the room, screaming and yelling, having this takes practice. I mean, I'm not going to say meditation is the only way. There are many, many ways. But I mean, How much practice do you put into and cultivating this place of refuge, of sanity, of safety, of freedom within your mind that you can access when you want to, and you can cancel out all of the crazy thoughts, the train or the, what was it, the drunken monkey, I think was one reference to it. That's kind of funny, but it's just, going all over the place all the time. And the cars are just going by. Whatever analogy you want to use, Wayne Dyer often used, like put all these thoughts in balloons and imagine them floating. Tie a little thought to the bottom of the string of the balloon and imagine it floating away. And you're not attached to it. You just watch it and it goes. I mean, that's one method. There's many, many. That's a whole different subject of how to clear your mind, but we're talking about mind power and the purpose of this and why it is important. And referencing Sir Edward Dyer's poem, My Mind to Me. A kingdom is, and the ultimate lesson that really is. Now, with all that rambling being said, thank you for being here once again. If you're getting value, consider subscribing. But this dynasty of delight, our minds, and this is so funny because we're doing hermetics on Wednesdays, and the very number one principle or very number one law of the ancient esoteric tradition of hermetics is the universe is mental. The mind is all. And so this lesson seems to be repeated throughout all of the wisdom of the ages, ladies and gentlemen. But this place that cannot be invaded by others, a refuge of sanity when all around us is tumultuous and turmoil, this is the wandering, not wandering like going all over the place, but this is the wondering, invisible mind. Dr. Wayne Dyer now and myself is inviting you, ladies and gentlemen, to recognize its powers with awe and appreciation for the magnitude of its vast domain. What do you mean, Dr. Dyer? I mean, we have this reverence and awe and appreciation for the power of our mind if we've been here for a while researching this kind of stuff. And we know that we can create this place within our minds of peace and tranquility that we can access through diligence and practice. But how do we? This is the wondering invisible. I'm inviting us to recognize the powers with awe and appreciation for the magnitude of our mind's vast domain. If you crave that which might cause you harm, recall the poet's words, yet still my mind forbids to crave, quote unquote. Dyer is referring to the ability to choose. So much can be in so few words. Yet still my mind forbids to crave. Understand that we possess the power of choice. I mean, this is very big, and a lot of times we just, whatever, it sounds really nice, but it just can't be. This isn't, I mean, we have to be serious. The furrows of worry in our bank account and our money, the thrills and chills and the ups and downs and the funny colors, this has just got to be real. And there's those people that come back to us and try to remind us and say, hey, look, it's just a ride. Like, calm down. Don't worry. And what do we do to those people? We got to get rid of them. We can't have people out there just telling us that this is just a ride and we should just enjoy our lives because it's just got to be real. Always got to reference the great mystic philosopher and comedian, Bill Hicks. But, I mean, it was the greatest metaphor for how we do this to ourselves. And we get out of our minds. I mean, maybe that's where that phrase out of your mind, out of our minds comes from, when we begin to get out of this place that we own, that is our space. And we lose control of that space and we become influenced by everything outside of us, and we no longer, as the poet said, have that no worldly waves my mind can toss. My state at one shall remain. And that is that place that we lose. I'm rambling again, but that one felt good. I like that ramble. If you're getting value, thank you. Hopefully you are. So, if we crave that which might cause us harm, recall the poet's words, yet still my mind forbids to crave. This is referring to our ability, our awesome ability to choose. There's a great aphorism in Dr. Wayne Dyer's Meditations for Manifestation. It's an audiobook that I like to listen to, but I just like to meditate doing the ahs and the ohms. You know, it's good for contemplation, but see, I'm rambling again. The choice and the aphorism or the mantra, I can choose in any moment. I can choose peace rather than this. That may come from A Course in Miracles, but I'm not entirely sure because I've never read that. I just heard it referenced. Maybe we'll do that one day, but right now we're learning about mind power from Dr. Wayne W. Dyer and the poem My Mind to Me a Kingdom Is by Sir Edward Dyer, who was an English poet of the Elizabethan period from 1543 to 1607. Thank you for joining me. All right. Understand that we possess the power of choice. There's nothing outside of ourselves. God, this is a powerful lesson. There's nothing outside of ourselves to blame for our choices. Although we may want to 100,000% most of the time. Understand that there is nothing outside of ourselves, which is wonderful. This doesn't mean that you're terrible and you made all the worst decisions ever. We didn't know this yet. And so without knowing this, we may not make the correct decisions, assuming that we don't have this power from a different perspective. But this is why we change our thoughts and we change our lives, to experience a better quality of life through a new awareness. So when we understand that there is nothing outside of ourselves to blame for our cravings and unhealthy addictions, and we go to our inner kingdom where our mind is capable of making choices that are more powerful than those that we have made possibly in the past, knowing that we have this new ability. Now, this doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Disclaimer, this takes work, and don't judge yourself in the process. I don't know how I can explain that like really good, because when I finally got it, it took listening to this kind of stuff and podcasts and audiobooks and lectures of, and this idea of like understanding that you have the complete and total control and power of choice, and like, forget what it's called, something like authority, or but you are the one in control of the direction of everything. And it's like that's not a bad thing, that you have whatever's gotten you to where you are now. It's not like, I don't know, it's this idea of responsibility and the ability to respond rather than having a giant weight of responsibility on our shoulders. But I don't know, it took me many hours of listening to this kind of stuff before I finally, it flipped. And I was like, whoa. Like, okay, like it feels like a giant weight when you hear that you have the power and the choice and it is up to you. I'm like, I don't know if I want all of that. That's a lot. But then it's like, wait, there's no judgment in that because you are perfect in each moment and need not chase after anything in order to feel complete or whole and harmonious. So wherever you are is where you're supposed to be on your journey to learn and grow and go to wherever you're supposed to go. And to judge that would to put ourselves in a position of God and say, oh, this reality just isn't the way that it should be. And you know, that's another one of those erroneous thought activities that causes us stress and pain and struggle. And so we are here to seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment, through a greater awareness, just a new perspective. But hopefully we can experience higher quality moments, which stack up into higher quality life. Hopefully, once again, this doesn't just happen automatically. It's something that we really have to, like Hermes, or the Egyptian sage god Thoth said, a constant contemplation is how we come to attain a pure philosophy, or the true knowledge of the things that are, or he described of Atum, the one God. But let us think now and go back to this poet's words, because I'm going longer than I thought I would here. But this is one of those ultimate lessons that's difficult to take in. It takes a lot of contemplation. Understand that we possess the power of choice. There's nothing outside of ourselves to blame for our cravings, our unhealthy addictions, including, I think we also don't blame ourselves. We blame our lack of understanding, the lack of psychological, philosophical education that we're given, as young people growing up in this crazy world we find ourselves in. And so, go to our inner kingdom where our mind is capable of making choices that are more powerful than our cravings, for instance. When we get lost in the need to be a victor at all costs, we can either blame the pressures of society or go to this powerful kingdom, this greatest natural power that we have within ourselves, and ask our mind to serve the highest good for all concerned rather than our self-important ego. This goes back to an old topic that I used to focus on, which is service to others over service to self, and this leads to some kind of activation. A better way to describe it is a frequency change, a resonation, some kind of, it's like you begin to change the radio station at which your consciousness or your mind or your perspective of life is coming from or functioning at. This is my own thoughts on that, however. Serving the highest good for all concerned rather than our self-important ego. The need to acquire more than is necessary, to chase after success at all costs, to consistently pursue approval from others, is imposed on us by society, and this is why we're all doing it. So this is why I'm saying, like, don't blame yourself, but also don't blame everything outside of you, because then that gives your power away. If you bring back control and you're not blaming anything else, and you're like, okay, I didn't know either, because this is what we were taught. This is a function of how we choose to use that invisible mystery, which is our minds within us. Edward Dyer is telling us that there are many around us who have too much, yet they crave so much more, and we all know this. They are but poor, quoting from the poet now, they are but poor, though they have so much. And he says, I am rich, but have little store. He watches others living in agony, never seeming to be satisfied with all that they have and in pursuit of the elusive more. They lack, I leave. They pine, I live. As the poet gently suggests, there is the choice to become consumed with greed and acquisition and toil, and be a victim of mishap and live with fear, or to decide that such cares my mind could never bear. I mean, this is heavy because that could describe the entire lives of many people, living their entire lives and never getting out of that living in agony, never seeming to be satisfied, always in pursuit of the elusive more, whether that be status, success, money, things. That elusive more. And that there is this choice to decide that such cares my mind could never bear, and that we don't need to do this, but that, sadly, for so many, has never been offered as an opportunity. I would imagine that those that live their lives in such situations as, the greed, the acquisition, and being the victim of mishap, and living with the fear that you'll never get enough. It's so sad that, it's like the first thing that we learn in life this, isn't this power that we have to use our minds, to not become trapped in these systems that have been created that cause us so much of those lives of toiling and greed and acquisition and victims of mishap and being consumed with reality. Content. Whoa, phone call. One sec. All right, recording resumed. Now, unlimited happiness, fulfillment is available to us. It's funny, it reminds me of one. Jeff asked me one time, he said, Chase, like, what is your goal here with this, your YouTube channel or whatever it is you're doing? Like, what would be your, and I'm like, I'm wanting to help as many other people as I possibly can to stop suffering from negative life experiences and, share the knowledge and the wisdom that is out there to help us to find happiness, to find peace, and find a higher quality of life. And he goes, well, those are high and lofty goals, Jay. He goes, but if there was something that you could actually do. Shout out to Jeff, the ultimate Christian whistleblower. We miss you, Jeff. I wish he could come back, but man, he got pretty intense, ladies and gentlemen. It's been quite a few days or years. But time is relative, and I seem to be rambling again. So, they are poor, though much they have, I am rich with little store. Know that it is our mind that makes these choices, nothing more. But before knowing this, we might not consider that fact. Unlimited happiness and fulfillment is available to us, as Sir Edward Dyer, the poet, intimates in this line. Content I live, this is my stay, I seek no more than may suffice. Your mind is willing and able to give us a lifetime of peace and tranquility, ladies and gentlemen, by deciding to change our mind. We can start living. But this is the most, by deciding, like, we have to get sick and tired of being sick and tired, metaphorically, and you have to get to that point to where you decide to do it, to put in the effort to try to figure it out, whatever it takes. I don't know how I got so passionately obsessed with all of this stuff. Maybe it was that point, or maybe I just kind of had this nature to me already. I don't know. But our mind can give us every fear that we experience comes not from outside, but from how we choose to use our mind. When you sweep your inner kingdom free of the remains of lifelong conditioning, very important, lifelong conditioning, you can eliminate even fear, the ultimate fear, the fear of death, which weirdly didn't exist so much in, cultures before our modern times. And I think they had a more mystical understanding of the nature of reality than we do now. So I really like to think about how they would celebrate the passing and have no fear of moving on from this greatest fear that we have is not knowing what is after this. This is the state of grace, described by Sir Edward Dyer as I loathe not life, nor dread my end. Our kingdom is how we use our minds in the face of any and all circumstances. You are the king, the ultimate ruler. No one can make you upset without the consent of your mind, your royal mind. That is also a great quote there. No one can make you upset without your consent. You have to do it in your mind to let that happen, which is very weird. It's very weird. That's not the way that we normally think of it. No one can depress us without our permission. No one can hurt our feelings without our decree. This poem tells us to stop weighing our pleasure by what we lust after, stop the endless need to conquer and prove ourselves, and stop measuring our success on all those worldly activities and turn inward. Stop the endless. I didn't know we were going to go this deep today, but I knew a lesson on mind power would be an important one. I always need these reminders too. Well, I'm no master, disclaimer. I'm just on this journey with you, ladies and gentlemen. So we're students along the path. Stop measuring our success on all those world activities and turn inward to a place where peace and serenity are only a thought away. You and me here are only a thought away from Dyer's conclusion to this famous poem. My wealth is health and perfect ease. There is one final thing to consider in our inner kingdom. Your mind is in charge of your health as well as your peacefulness. So also, ladies and gentlemen, we begin to change our thoughts about healing and our thoughts about healing, and you change your body's reactions to illness. In your inner kingdom, with a quiet mind, free of the need to win, acquire, conquer, toil, we produce molecules of health. Now, this has been proven on a scientific basis, but the philosophy is what begins, us going down that direction to even try to prove this. We know that when people are more peaceful, they have a lot better, biological state. They have a lot better health than those who are in anxiety and stress all the time. You lower your blood pressure. You remove the potential for ulcers. You strengthen your immune system and lessen your susceptibility to all manners of invasive lacks of ease, maybe, or dis-ease. And it is all in the kingdom of our mind. Adopt these words of wisdom, poetically describing this idea of our mind being a kingdom with an invisible you reigning within. Put this beautiful piece of sweet poetry to work in our life by following these 4 suggestions that Dr. Wayne W. Dyer leaves us with today. And I will leave us here today finishing up with these 4 suggestions on the subject of mind power and the poem, My Mind to Me, A Kingdom Is, from Sir Edward Dyer. Number 1, on how we can begin to practice in creating this kingdom of our minds in our lives today. Practice mind control to eliminate self-destructive behaviors. What does this mean? Well, ask ourselves why we are choosing to allow ourselves to be upset rather than using our mind to create tranquility. I mean, this is, if somebody slapped us with this every time we were getting upset, it'd be like, wait a minute. We would get more upset if this guy's telling me to choose to not be upset. I mean, it's your life. Don't you just want to be happy? It's your, all we've got is perspective. I don't know. I mean, that's sounds really arrogant to me, but like, I personally challenge myself with that. It is my life. You've got your perspective. Don't I just want to be happy? Well, I want other people to be happy. That's that's a weird one. Maybe that's why I'm here. Anyways, ask yourself why we are choosing to allow ourselves to be upset rather than using our mind to create tranquility and peace. Catch ourselves. See, this is how we do it. This is how we begin to create this ability within ourselves. Catch yourself in the middle of a depressing or angry thought process or reaction, and then notice it, recognize it, and begin and try a new way thinking. Begin to try to access a new perspective. Number 2, and how we can use this wisdom of mind power to change our lives, spend some time in awe of our minds and what it is capable of creating for us. Contemplate your inner kingdom and refuse to allow thoughts into that sacred place that might pollute it in any way. This also goes back to the, I forget how it's described, but it's like maybe being mindful, realizing what is actually popping up in your mind and what kind of thoughts that you're having. And then see if you might want to choose a different direction or begin working on that. Refuse to allow thoughts into that sacred inner space that might pollute it in any way. Number 3, on suggestions on how we can use this ability of mind power. Repeatedly remind yourself that nothing or no one outside of you can make you unhappy without your consent. Repeatedly remind yourself. Remember that you are the sum total of the choices that you make in your mind. Why choose to use your mind as a pig pen instead of a kingdom? You have the same opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, as Sir Edward Dyer did half a millennia ago. To know, my mind to me, a kingdom is. Memorize his conclusion. Thus do I live, and thus will I die. Would all did so well as I. And remember that you are the king, you are the queen of your inner domain. We have that same opportunity. My mind to me, a kingdom is. Wow, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. That is a boom to mind power. And a great poem from Sir Edward Dyer, My Mind to Me a Kingdom Is, and The Wisdom of the Ages by Dr. Wayne W. Dyer. Wow. Amazing, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment, through a greater awareness and understanding of the nature of reality and ourselves and psychology and spirituality, philosophy, all of these things, so that through this increased awareness, we can hopefully then increase the quality of our lives and the lives of those around us. Also remember to seek to discover the lost wisdom of the ages and the mysteries of our history. Also, ladies and gentlemen, keep in mind that there is no way to happiness. Why? You're saying, what? After everything we talked about, there's no way to... You know why? It's because happiness is the way. When we can create the ability within ourselves to bring happiness to life, then no longer are we seeking for all the things outside of ourselves. Oh, when I have this much and when I get that, and becomes irrelevant because then we are there. This goes hand in hand with what we talked about, being able to create this place within ourselves using the power of our mind to bring happiness to life. Then hopefully the entire journey is wonderful. I love and appreciate each and every one of you, ladies and gentlemen, that spends time here with me. We just got over 2,000 subscribers on the channel. Wow. Unbelievable. I think I've got like 600 videos. I just can't believe how many videos I've done. Maybe it was 460, I forget, or it was 640 or something, but I just can't believe. It's been quite a few years, and I still don't even take it that seriously, which is probably why it's taken me so long to get to 2,000 subscribers. But once again, I've learned in this process that that's not important. What's important is the process. And if you are in the process, it's like a Zen teaching or philosophy, but if you are in the process, then the results will take care of themselves. Whether that be peace that you're seeking, if you're not so worried about getting the outcome of it and you're in the process of trying to discover peace, the outcome might appear magically for you rather than always being at, the other end that we're reaching for. I don't know. I'm rambling again. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Be sure to expand the description. Get yourself a link to the book. It's a Amazon associate link, so I might make a few cents, which is fine. I just made my first $10 from Amazon for doing this for quite a long time. So that's you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. I love and appreciate you. Get this book for yourself to put it on your shelf. Physical copies. Gotta have the physical copies. Well, I think it's very different. To me, that's very important and significant. However, get the book for yourself, put it on your shelf. Also, a link to the ultimate antioxidant known to man, C60 Power. Give yourself the gift of health, Nobel Prize winning. And also a link to my Etsy shop and my landscape paintings if you'd like to. I just sold first one this year. So, man, that feels good. Thank you to you if you were the one who just purchased it. It was one that was actually in the background of these videos all the time this year. Uh, it had like two different mountain ranges in front of it, and then there's just a tree line at the bottom, and then a giant tree and some water at the bottom. But it was very nice, and I appreciate it so much. So I sent him an extra one that I did just recently. It's very wonderful to share the beauty of nature, as Bob Ross would say, with other people because it's just fun and it's nice. And all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I also have a Patreon if you'd like to help support the work that we do here and inspire me to do some extra stuff behind the scenes for those of you that are fans of me and not just the information that we present. With all that being said, once again, I love and appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much. And until next time, remember, be the change that you want to see. Be the example that you want to set. No, 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 no.